Join lifelong Star Wars fans Lauren and Steph as they dive into the world of Star Wars fan fiction, discussing a new fic each month, breaking down the writing style, characters, canon relationship, and more. This is your source for Star Wars fan fiction recommendations. So come on and find out why it's one hell of a fanfic. Hey y'all, I'm Steph, and welcome to One Hell of a Fanfic, where we talk about a new Star Wars fan fiction every month. And tonight I'm here, as usual, with Lauren. How are you, Lauren?
I'm good. Yeah, ready to talk about this fanfic. This one spoke to me, especially this month. So probably, probably because I picked it and I picked one that I thought I would like. So it doesn't really take a genius to put that together.
I am looking forward to hearing why it spoke to you.
Yeah. How are you though?
Um, I'm doing all right. I've settled into my new place, and no one's been sick in a while here. Fingers crossed.
And when you have kids, that is saying something.
Exactly. When you have kids who are immunosuppressed,
Yeah.
it's saying something. So that's great. Yeah, so everything's going well. This one was called Let's Give Them Something to Talk About, and it was by Ginny Weasleys. It was finished back in 2016, probably all on the same day. It's very short, only 3,300 words. So, I don't know, 30 minutes of reading. 30 minutes of reading if you're me and you're trying to make dinner while you're doing it.
And if you're savoring what you're reading,
Yes,
then yeah.
savoring.
Don't read too fast.
Spice level. This one was a 1. I wanted to give it like a 1.5. But I'd rather not to do the. I don't know where to put it. It's like our spice levels, just to kind of go back over that, is 0 is 0. 1 is mild, nothing more than kissing. 2 is more implied stuff has happened, everything up to the stuff. 3 is the deed has happened, or there's explicit descriptions, and then 4 is just things get wild. So it was probably a 1, nothing more than kissing.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And when we're not reading a romance, then obviously the spice level is always at 0, but we mainly just include that so that way whenever we are reading a romance, y'all get a heads up as to what you're getting into, if this sounds like something that is up to like kind of what you're wanting to read or not.
Right.
But yeah, I mean with this one, so this one is a romance. And so we do have a closed door scene, which basically means that intimate activities are happening, but it's not on the page. So, I mean, yeah, it's kind of hard to interpret the spice level when that's the situation.
And I don't think actually anything happened. I think they got interrupted and then decided not to.
Okay,
Or did
well,
they?
I interpreted that differently then.
Oh.
I thought, well, I guess we'll get into that. We'll
Yeah.
explain what we mean by that.
Right. Okay, so what's next? Canon relation. This was one of those authors that actually put everything right up in the description. It was alternate universe. I didn't have to guess. And I didn't have to guess the tropes, but you should still tell us the tropes.
Okay, yes, tropes. Everyone lives, no one dies, which AKA that's a fix it. We also have shared bed and mutual pining. And also, I was when I was looking at the notes, I was trying to think about what's the opposite of fake dating, because it's like they're trying to pretend that they're not dating. So I don't know what that would be called, but that's also in here.
Something interesting I saw in there, which I didn't actually know. I had to like Google some of the words. This fanfic was translated into Russian. So if you follow the link that we'll put inside of the show description, you'll be able to see right on the AO3 page, there's a link to the Russian translation, which I don't see much of. So that was kind of cool.
That's super cool. I don't know if I personally have come across that before when reading fanfic, so that's awesome.
So tell us, what did the author say about this?
Okay, so the author summary, this is just their little blurb that they included in the beginning. They said, whoever keeps spreading rumors of him and Jyn sleeping together every time she so much as stops by his room is going to get decked if Cassian ever finds them. Or everyone thinks Cassian and Jyn are dating and they're only half wrong. So, yeah, I mean, that pretty much sums it up right there. This
Yes.
is it's a short romance where they're trying to first of all, they're trying to decide if they're dating or not, and then everybody is spreading rumors about it, which is kind of complicating the situation. So, but what about this made you feel like it was worth the read?
I think the author must, I didn't look into it, but they must write longer fics normally because the way that they world build based on just their descriptions alone was really well done. For example, they said something, they're talking about like the kids running around the base, and they said that something hints at the childhood they've yet to have stolen from them. And like it's just such a, I don't know, deep way to describe something as so little of words. And then also they had great descriptions of things like her hair haloing out over the pillow. Like it wasn't just like it spread over, it fanned out. No, it was the way they described things was beautiful.
Yeah, I definitely agree. They were saying a lot in few words, which is always really impressive. Well, for me, I would say also just to add on to what you said, I did appreciate, and this is why I picked this fic. Jyn and Cassian are like probably my biggest Star Wars ship, honestly, like if I'm really thinking about it. And if you want to see them be together, they are together in this fic and they don't die. And they kind of get like a happily ever after. It's not like stated that they get married or whatever, but you get the picture that they're probably going to be together now. So, yeah, I mean, I just really enjoyed that aspect, and also the fact that I feel like the way that this author wrote their relationship, it felt very true to how these characters are in canon. Like, I didn't feel like I was reading a fic about two completely different characters that I never met before. They felt like Jyn and Cassian, and it felt like what their relationship might have looked like in the aftermath of what happened to them. So I thought that was super cool.
So in the notes you have HEA or at least HFN. What's HFN?
Oh, HFN is happy for now. Because that's why I was
Okay.
like, okay, they don't say specifically HEA, but they're at least dating now by the time we get to the end of this fic. So that would be like a happy for now.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm here for
But
that too
in
then.
my mind, it is their happy for now does turn into a HEA. So
Of course.
yeah. Okay, should I say my summary of what this is about now?
I'm ready.
Okay, so anyone who's thinking about reading this, spoilers are about to be said. Although I will say, since this is a pretty short fic, I feel like there's not really even a lot of spoilers to really say. But if you're like me and you're sensitive to spoilers, now is your time to turn back. So Jyn and Cassian and everybody else, they all survive Scarif. We don't know exactly how, we just know that they survived. And they're back at the rebel base and they are trying to heal, put the pieces back together, figure out what's next. And everybody is traumatized, and rightfully so, because they went through a horrible ordeal and they all almost died. And Jyn and Cassian are trying to figure out what that means for them. They're both coping with their own issues with being traumatized. They're also still in the middle of a war. So this is a complicated situation for everybody. And so they're all living on this rebel base. For a while, they're hospitalized on the rebel base. And Jyn gets in the habit of she starts going into Cassian's room and sleeping with him at night because she's having really bad nightmares and she doesn't want to be by herself. And so this kind of leads to them continuing to grow closer. I mean, of course if you saw Rogue One, you know that they're already pretty close by the time you get to the end of that mission. But when she starts seeking him out to help with her nightmares and stuff like that, they're getting closer. And everybody on the rebel base starts talking about like, oh, they must be dating, they must be dating. And it starts off with these teenagers starting the rumor, and then eventually like everybody else like gets in on the gossip. And I just thought this was like I really actually liked this because as I was reading this, I got the sense that this is like a bunch of people that are in a horrible situation. They're in a war. And this is just kind of like something fun for them to gossip about with their friends. That's not like something horrible.
Yeah.
So everybody gets super into the gossip. And Cassian is getting so annoyed and he wants them to all stop. And Jyn actually just thinks it's funny.
Yeah.
Like at one part, she's kind of just like egging them on. And but regardless of Cassian's annoyance with the rumors, they do continue to grow closer. which eventually results in them being together officially. And then once they're actually together and they pretty much are boyfriend and girlfriend now, Cassian starts to care a little bit less about the gossip. He kind of gets over it. But I guess to address the part that I thought that they did end up like sleeping together, because there's a scene where they're about to go to this meeting and they're in his room and Jen is like, we have a meeting. And then they're like, okay, well, like, let's just be late to the meeting. And then they don't go to the meeting. And so I interpreted that as a closed door scene, but I don't know about you. Sounds like you thought differently.
I don't know. I'm going to look at it right now.
Okay, yeah, let's solve this once and for all.
You know what? Maybe it happened. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you're right. Yeah. She teases him and then, yeah. And then, yeah. No, I think you're right.
Okay,
Well, I just
cool.
suddenly like this fic more.
Oh my god. Okay, I should have known you would say that. Well, anyway, so and also just a little FYI, this fic is written in the third person, so we do get the thoughts of Jyn and Cassian. We kind of get a little bit of a perspective shift. Okay, what characters do we have in this one?
Okay. So we had Jyn and Cassian. How do you pronounce the next one?
Bodhi.
Oh, Odie. Okay. And then I liked Mon Mothma's appearance in there.
Yes.
Um, and it's I'm terrible at names. Chirrut,
Yeah.
Ha, and Baze.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So like there was the little bits of time that these other characters popped in, but they weren't there long. Um, there was
Yeah.
other random not named characters, teenagers, the poor girl that walked in on on Cassian in a towel.
And she doesn't really know what to do with herself. She's like, I'll come back later.
Oh, poor girl.
That happens during one of the many times that Cassian and Jen are hanging out and somebody like walks up to them and is like, "Are y'all together?" That's basically what that scene was. I also really liked Mon Mothma's appearance where she's like she almost accidentally calls Jen his girlfriend and then stops herself and says partner.
Right.
Which
Oh.
that is so Mon Mothma. I could completely see that. Like she's trying to not be like a 15-year-old teenager gossiping, but like she just can't help herself.
Right. Yeah, she was like she just decided to let him know that Jin was coming back. And he was like, "But why would I need to know? Why is she telling me?"
Yeah,
Yep, that's funny.
I love it. Okay, well, what other reactions did you have as you were reading this, or just any thoughts that came up for you?
I kind of related to that feeling that Cassian gets where like he's walking around grumpy because Jin is left off on a mission and he doesn't even really realize that he's grumpy, but all of his friends are like, "My goodness, he's grumpy because she's gone." I get like that. As someone in a long distance relationship, the first couple bits of time when they're gone, I'm just like probably a complete grumpy goose. The thing I related to least was caring about all the rumors that are happening. I don't care. Rumor away.
Yeah, it's because it's kind of like I don't know. Maybe for me, this is my own personal feelings of I love gossip, but like fun gossip, not like mean
Yes,
gossip. Like
of
just like
course.
chit chat. I don't know. So if I get it. I understand. I would be one of those people that would be like, "Oh
Me
yeah,
too.
I do think that they're dating." That would be me. I mean, I do that. So, yeah. I'm like, "Oh, come on, guys. It's just people having fun. Just let it go."
Yeah.
So, I'll just point out a couple of my favorite things here, but what I really liked about this fic is that the feelings and I feel like the author captured this particular situation really well because of course Jen and Cassian are in like they're in a weird situation. They just went through something traumatic together, which made them bond a lot because they both almost died and had to save each other like multiple times and had to trust each other in a way that like most people are never put in a situation like that with another person, and they had each other's backs and like saw it through. So like they're super bonded in a very deep way, but it's like different than like being boyfriend and girlfriend. It's not the same thing, but they have feelings for each other. And so I really liked how the author showed them trying to work this out. And it's never like explained word for word. Like the author doesn't beat you over the head with it. The author doesn't like tell you exactly what it is. You see it in their interactions with each other. Like Jyn comes into his room and she's kind of standing there and she's like, like feeling a little awkward, but she wants to lay there with him because she knows that that's going to be comforting for her, but she also is like unsure about it. Like that whole dynamic, I feel like was captured so well. And there is a quote that I'm going to read that I feel like sums up what I'm trying to say, like way better than how I'm saying it. And this is when one of the kids asks Cassian if Jyn is his girlfriend. And he's thinking to himself, and he thinks, the idea of applying a word as mundane as girlfriend to Jyn, who he had thought he would die with, Jyn, who he would die for, is as ridiculous as the idea that he and Jyn are some sort of grand rebel romance to these kids. So yeah, I just thought that was like super well done by this author by just capturing this weird dynamic that the two of them have and getting to watch them actually see it through was really cool.
One of my favorite things actually fits right into the end of that, where that banter that they had back and forth, they only briefly touched on it. Like the author did say something about how he didn't feel like he was going to say the wrong thing or the right thing at any moment. He was just able to be himself and not have to worry with her.
Yeah, because it's like they know each other, even though they haven't known each other for super long, they know each other in like a really deep way. So there is still like an ease there, which is nice. Do you have a favorite scene?
Yes. Um, my favorite scenes always are the ones that make me smile. And so while all that silly banter is happening and Cassian's being all, grumpy or self-conscious, something happens and Jin said something loud enough for people to hear about what are you talking about? We're just sleeping together. And he looks at her and goes, "Can you just once make my life easier?" And I could just see it in my head, and it just made me laugh.
Yeah. I love it that she just said blurted that out so loud, like everybody that was in that room like heard it.
Yeah.
But she didn't even mean sleeping together like that. She meant like literally sleeping together, but of course that's not how everybody else took it.
Oh, and I'm sure she knew just
Oh
by the way
yeah.
she acted. She did that on purpose, and I loved it.
Oh yeah, I felt like she was completely messing with him, which it goes back to that banner that you pointed out that
Yep.
was done really well. I would say my favorite scene, I feel like I've kind of already said it, but for me, it was when Jen comes into his room for the first time and just that balance of the conflicting emotions of like, okay, should I go in here? Like, I don't want to tell him it's a nightmare though. Like that kind of just like, kind of seeing Jen kind of work through all that on the page and then the conclusion that she eventually comes to that she does end up laying with him. I just felt like that was super well done. So that was definitely my favorite. And then just in general, that juxtaposition of everybody with their gossiping in the middle of a war. I really liked that too because you can just tell that like it's just something fun for them to think about and talk about and get their mind off of all these terrible things. So I really liked how that was included in this too. Okay, well, did you have any questions that you were left with when you were reading this?
I'm curious how they got rescued. They kind of mentioned something.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it was kind of vague.
It was.
And the only thing I can think of that would be a possibility would be so when because remember the shield, I'm trying to remember what. So the shield ends up closing. And so that's when it's basically like the realization dawns on everybody that they're all going to die on Scarif because the shield closed. So maybe if something happened where the shield didn't get closed, then maybe a rebel ship could have just gone down there and got them before the Death Star destroyed it.
Yeah. It did mention only 5 people got rescued. So, yeah, maybe some small ship got through.
Yeah, I don't know who else they would even try to rescue other than Jyn, Cassian, Bodhi, Baze, and Chirrut.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's some innocent people on Scarif that probably would have appreciated being rescued, though, now that I think
Right.
about it. Surely there's other people on that planet. I don't know. I feel like that one I don't really have any good theories on. What about you?
Oh, I have no idea, but you are normally really good at thinking Star Wars things, so I was curious to hear.
That's the only thing I can think of is, or maybe if, or the other option would be if, oh, no, this, actually, I do have a different theory now. Because obviously, so Bodhi is alive in this fic. So that means that when Bodhi's on the ship that's supposed to, the ship that they arrived on, he obviously didn't get killed. Like, remember in the movie, they throw that, like, they throw the bomb in the ship and then the ship explodes. So, and when he's in it, and that's how he dies. He's like the first one to die, and that's how he dies.
Oh.
And so I'm like, okay, well, obviously that didn't happen for him to be alive. So maybe that ship just was waiting for them when they were done, and then they all just got back on the ship and just left. But then they would have had to open the shield. So I don't I just ran into another problem.
Well, I don't know, but
Well,
it's fun to think about.
it is fun to think about. I'm sure there's an explanation, but
Maybe.
yeah.
Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah. Okay. So based on Jyn and Cassian, I mean, obviously, like they're very close because of what they went through. But do you think that they have what it takes to make it together in a romantic relationship as boyfriend and girlfriend based on how they were in this fic? And also based on canon Jyn and Cassian too, if your answer is different from one or the other.
I don't think so. But
Really?
yeah, I know how much you adore them, but
I'm gonna
like
hang up.
Jin's too like they're both too like, well, this ain't working out. I'm gonna get the hell out of here. Like they're
Yeah, I mean, that is a fair point, even though it's difficult for me to hear. I do see where you're coming from.
okay. So I'm gonna assume your answer is yes, they make it forever. They have tiny little babies, little rebel babies, and
They don't seem like I don't know, I can't really picture them having kids. I could be wrong, but I mean, I don't know. So I don't think it's gonna be perfect. I think that they both do probably have a lot to learn because they're both loners. So I think that
yeah,
they both haven't really had very many close relationships in their lives. So they probably do have a lot to learn about like what it takes to have a close relationship with somebody. But I think they could do it. It might be a little bumpy at times, but I think they could pull it off.
absolutely. They're gonna get therapy and it's gonna be just fine.
Yeah. I mean, when you almost die with someone or almost die for someone, then it's kind of like, you know what? I feel like all this dumb stuff we can probably work out.
I hope so. I'll keep that in my head, my heart too.
We can hope.
I got to pick this time. But I picked something that you've put on the TBR recently, I think. Um,
Yes.
okay. When did you put new stuff on there?
I think it was last month.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, it was like the first one I saw, and I was like, that sounds amazing. So the story is called Mace Windu's Guide to Accidental Friendship. And you wrote that it's about Mace kind of becoming friends with Anakin, or at least working through his stuff.
Which I want to see that so bad. So I'm glad that
Yeah.
you picked this.
So that fic is going to be about 7,500 words, another not super long one. And it should be super fun to read.
All right. Well, just as a reminder, we are on social media. So our Instagram is one hell of a fanfic with a period in between every word. And that is where we post whenever we post a new episode and what we're reading next month. And we also have a YouTube channel as well. So if you like watching while you're listening, we post our recording videos on YouTube as well. So, all right. Well, we will see y'all next month. Thanks so much for joining us at One Hell of a Fanfic. On this podcast, we discuss Star Wars fanfiction, but we do not own the rights to Star Wars or any of the written works we cover. We have no affiliation with Lucasfilm or the fanfic authors we credit for their work. For questions, please email us at onehellofafanfic@gmail.com.